Hello and welcome to another video from My Random Hobbies, and this week I have been on my Class 2 HGV driving course and taken the relevant tests as well to hopefully complete my qualification for Class 2. So let's find out how I got on. Okay, so as you'll know from previous videos, I have been trying to get my HGV license and I'm going for Class 1 ultimately, but the stepping stone that I'm taking is Class 2 first and then the Class 1. And so this week, starting on Monday, I started my Class 2 driver training, and during the week I had to do a reverse test because the main test now has been split into the reverse bit and the driving bit separately, so that the idea being that it frees up 15 minutes for examiners, and if you obviously do 4 of those a day, then you've gained an extra hour to test someone else on their driving test, because it's an hour-long driving test. I also completed my Module 4 CPC, which would be needed to get my full sort of CPC qualification, which means I'm fully eligible to drive trucks. So the week was scheduled to start on a Monday, run through to Thursday being the test day for my driving, and the CPC Module 4 on the Friday. And when I got there on the Monday, I was told that my reversing would be on the Wednesday. All fair enough, because you've got to do the reversing part before you do the main driving part, it would seem. So I was based at Leeds for my driving course, so very similar to where I'm driving the Luton van at the moment, just one junction down. And I was nervous. I'm really nervous getting into the truck. The truck itself, not a huge difference, I suppose. It is bigger, but not a huge difference from the Luton van in essence. A little bit wider, certainly longer, but you know, in terms of driving bigger things, it was just a small step up in essence. But I was really nervous, partly because it was an automatic as well, and I know that most things truck-wise are automatic nowadays, but it was an automatic. I'm used to driving manual with a stick and gears that I've got to physically change myself, so I was a little bit nervous about that. And the instructor, after an initial sort of briefing, took me just around the car park of the place where the trucks are held. Get used to the brakes, get used to the steering, etc. And we parked up, having sort of tested the brakes and done a little loop, and it was fine. No real problems. But I was definitely nervous. I felt really sort of unsure, I guess. And there's a lot riding on it, I suppose, because I've given up a career as a teacher, as a deputy head, and this week meant a lot to me. So yeah, a lot riding on it. So we then went out and drove around, and as you get to drive these things, you get a little bit more confident. You gain the confidence because actually it is just driving. I've passed my driving test in my car. That's fine. The driving element is okay. The size and figuring out road position and things, watching the curbs, watching other vehicles, that's a bit different. And then you've got on top of that all of the things you've got to do to ensure that you pass your driving test. So of course, as a sort of seasoned driver, if you like, I passed my test in, what was it, 95, I think. You pick up bad habits. You stop looking at certain mirrors as often as perhaps you should. So there's lots of little things that you've got to sort of suddenly be aware of. And we got to a place for a breather and a break, and looked down at the clock, and we've been going 2.5, 3 hours nearly. And it whizzed by, absolutely whizzed by. And we'd been on, by that point, country roads, we'd been on town roads, we'd been on roundabouts, we'd been everywhere really. So it was really good, and I felt quite calm and reassured by that point. And then we spent the rest of the day doing more driver training. We did some reversing back at the yard, and again, for those of you who don't know, the reverse exercise is you drive up to 2 cones, and then you do a sort of like a reverse S, if you like. So you reverse backwards, round, and then down into a bay, and you've got to park within, the rear of your truck's got to be within a certain hatching area. And you can get out and have a look and check that you're happy with it. You can also take 2 shunts, or what they call shunts, which are, if you're not happy and you think you're going to hit the cones or anything, you can move forwards and then come back again, and you can do that twice. So all in all, it wasn't too bad. After that first day, the driving instructor was complimentary, said I'd done well, come on an awful lot, and that my reversing, there wasn't really an issue. So on the next day, it was actually a short day, it was only half a day, and again we set off, did a bit of a run around for a couple of hours, came back, did a little bit of reversing, ready for our reverse test on the Wednesday. So I was told that my reverse test was on the Wednesday. Now the odd thing is, I was training and testing, I was going to be tested from a driving test around the Wetherby area, which is up just past Leeds, north of Leeds. But for my reverse test, I'd been booked into a test centre in Sheffield. So I had to drive with the instructor for 45 minutes to the test centre in Sheffield to do my reverse. And we got there a bit early. We did a little bit of test driving around Sheffield as well. We then went to the test centre, and I would say 5 minutes later, the guy had come out, introduced himself, told me what I had to do, which I knew, and then he called me over. My instructor tells me it took me 1 minute 58 seconds to complete the reverse procedure, which I did and passed. So that was great, because my nerves were shot to pieces the night before, but I passed that, and that was good. And then we drove straight out of the centre, so I reckon we were maybe there about 10 minutes or so. And then we drove all the way back from Sheffield to Leeds, and that was kind of the end of the day. So we'd done some driving around in the morning, and then driving around Sheffield as well, and then back up. So we'd done quite a bit of motorway driving on that day too. So I passed that, which meant I could definitely do my driving hours drive on the Thursday. Now I also was then told that my CPC Module 4 had been moved from Friday to Thursday afternoon, which meant that actually I could take my driving test in the morning, do my Module 4 CPC in the afternoon, and I would be done for the week. So that was, in a way, that was great news, which meant that for sort of Tuesday, Wednesday time, he was going through some Module 4 questions as well as the Module 3, which is a driving course, questions that I may be asked. So again, on the morning of, we drove around for maybe an hour and a half or so, and then parked up, had a cup of tea, and then went around to the test centre. And I had, an examiner, a lovely examiner. It was very pleasant. And we set out on our hour-long test. Before we left the test centre, he asked a few questions. I think it was 5, based on the truck and procedures, etc., which I was able to answer no problem. And then we went out for our hour-long drive. And the hour-long drive takes in minor roads, major roads, bit of motorway, roundabouts, obviously, that's a big one. And there's a sort of a 10-minute period where they'll tell you to go to a destination and you get yourself there. So you're following the road signs basically. And the test went well. I drove well. I was listening to all of the things that my instructor had told me, just trying to do everything I possibly could. And I passed. And I passed with 2 minors. You're allowed 11 minors in total, and no major fails, thankfully. And so I think my minors were a mirror check when either speeding up or slowing down, and possibly something related to speed, which I think was when I was going through a residential area. There were speed bumps on the road, but it was actually a 30-mile-an-hour road, and I was doing 20 for most of that road. So I think that's where he picked me up on my minor for speed as well. But you know, really delighted. Then the module 4 in the afternoon was actually the same examiner at the same centre, and again he asks you 5 questions from 5 different areas, and usually it involves walking around and saying, you know, what you would look for on the truck at any point, plus one about, you know, trafficking and things like that. So and again, because I'd listened to the instructor, I'd watched some YouTube videos as well, I got 100% on that one, which is fantastic, which meant that as of Thursday afternoon, about 3:45, I had qualified to become a Class 2 driver, which is fantastic news. I was chuffed a bit. Now, because I had done my driving in the morning, I had to hold on to my license, and the examiner, in the afternoon wouldn't take my license and get it all registered and stuff. So I had to send that off myself with the pass certificate from the morning. So I sent that off, recorded, registered delivery on the Thursday. So hopefully it'll get processed and get back to me within a couple of weeks, I hope. But I can always check online as well to see if it's gone through. So I'm now looking for my Class 1. I'm hoping that the company I'm with will contact me shortly. I emailed them on the Friday just to sort of say, hey, you know, I've passed. What's happening with the Class 1? I'm hoping to hear from them on Monday, and then hopefully I can progress forward again. And in the meantime, the company that I'm working with are delighted, and they're keen for me to go for my Class 1 because, as I say, they've got Luton vans, they've got Class 1, and they don't really have a Class 2 capability at the moment. So they're quite happy to support me going through my Class 1 and helping me learn the ropes. So there we go. Chuffed a bit that I have got that Class 2 so far. And I will continue to update you on my progress. But thank you very much for watching. Please do like and subscribe so that you can hear more about how things are going and how long the process is taking. We're now 5 months, I think, into the process of getting this driving license. So it's a long drawn out procedure. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed that. Take care for now, and I'll see you again soon for another video. Bye bye.